And in Indonesia, you have to hire Indonesians. So the only thing we knew was a model of Western service, Western medical. Well, Bali Sehat is hugely successful, but our first goal is to be sustainable.
Network and connect. Go the extra mile with Alan and Eric. Hello and welcome back to the Extra Mile podcast. Today's guest is a woman whose life reads like an adventure novel with a heart. Born in post-war London, raised in Canada, and later rooted in Australia. Sue Bishop chose Bali not just to retire, but to serve. With her late husband Ray, she turned a $5,000 dream into a thriving charity that's brought life-saving medical care to over 40,000 people in remote villages. From flying in 9-seater planes to building a hospital in a pandemic, Sue's story is one of grit, grace, and unstoppable purpose. Let's welcome Sue Bishop. Welcome, Sue.
Thank you, Alan.
So, Sue, let's start at the beginning. What are some of your early memories of growing up in England and then moving to Canada as a child?
I don't remember much of England. I was 10 when I came to Canada, but I remember being on the boat with my mother, who liked to go out in the evening and leave me taking care of my little brother. So that's probably my strongest memory. And then we went to Victoria in British Columbia. And I had a very strong British accent. And I think the first thing I did was dump it and turn Canadian. So Canada was my home until I was 40 and met an Australian who took me off to Australia for, I think, my third adventure.
Now, you've lived in several countries. What pulled you towards each of those moves, and what made Bali feel like the right place to settle after Oz?
Well, I started in England with no choice. I was born there, and my parents brought me to Canada, and I married an Australian, and I had a very high-flying job, was never home, and he promised me a nice, quiet life in country Australia. I didn't stay there long because I started a business, but it was really an adventure. And then Bali was our place we used to come to escape to rest.
Like so many.
And when we came here, we met so many interesting people. We loved the culture. And as we got closer to retirement, we had an idea and a dream. And the dream was to help the Balinese people.
So at the age of 62, you and Ray came to Bali with a powerful idea and just $5,000. What was the original plan, and how did it evolve into something much bigger?
Well, the original plan was to take nurses up into the mountainous regions of the Karangasem and help the people that never got to a hospital or a doctor and treat them on site with the motorbike and nurses. It was explosive. We hired a nurse and somebody gave us a small office to work from, which we turned into a clinic. We hired a doctor who sometimes showed up for work, and off we went. And I think within a year, it was so far beyond being able to reach with just a few nurses and a doctor who showed up sometimes. We had to relook at doing the whole thing in a more organized medical way.
Yeah.
And so that's how it started. There was one little story. I went to a psychic actually in Australia before I came to Bali, and he said to me, "What is this clinic you're doing?" And it took me away. I'd never not said anything to him, and he said, "Don't worry, it'll be extremely successful because it's your destiny." And I've always remembered that when I didn't have a little bit of money or didn't have enough money and we were reaching out for the foundation, I always remembered his words.
So tell us about the healthy days. How did those begin, and what did it feel like to witness hundreds of people being treated in a single day?
Well, they came of a desire to reach further, and nurses can only go so far. And so our first healthy day was in 2012, and it was in the village of Badakusini, which is in the Ahmed region. And we treated 125 people with about 15 volunteers. So we had doctors and we had pharmacists. We did manage to get some optometrists, and in we went. And we certainly have learned a lot since our first Healthy Day. We're a lot more organized than we were, and we're a much bigger team. Um, but it was amazing to reach out to people that needed the help, desperately needed the help. And you can do a lot in 3 or 4 hours, and you can change people's lives. And one of the things from that first day, there was a little girl who was blind, who was born blind, and she was about 3 years old. We eventually got her father, who lived 2.5 hour walk to Batakusani, to bring her into Denpasar to John Fawcett. And we found out she had genetic cataracts. And eventually we changed her life. I think she was about 7 before we could convince the family. But we convinced the family, and to this day, she's about 15, I think. And she's in school and she sees well, just as well as you and I.
A great story. What were the biggest challenges you faced during the pandemic when building the Bali Sehat clinic? And how did you keep going after losing your husband, Ray?
Well, the biggest challenge, I think, was money. I have to say money. We had raised 50% of the funds for the clinic, and then a very, very good benefactor from Australia gave us the balance. And we had budgeted, I think, about 5.5 billion, which is 550,000 Australian dollars. And we did manage to pull it in at that level, but we were missing a lot of things. So we needed a lot more money, of course, for security. Then we needed ambulances. Then we needed the equipment, and the bill went up and up and up. But we've always been very lucky, and the Australian and the world has supported us in our need.
Yeah. I think you make your own luck. Now, you've helped to treat over 40,000 people. What moments stand out to you the most? Any stories that have stayed with you?
Actually, we've treated 40,000 in the villages and 43,000 in our new clinic. So we're up close to, I would say, close to 100,000.
We have the numbers slightly out there.
Yes, but it's been an amazing journey. Certainly for me, it's been a huge growth. I've made so many friends. I've met so many people who are so giving of their time and also of their finances to help us out. There were so many stories about people, like the little girl I told you, that people who have cancer, people who find a lump, some sad, some not so sad. One of the stories I think is a basic story, and I'll tell you, it's a story of a family. And there was a woman, and she had 4 children. And she came to us one of the early day healthy days, and her children had worms. And, she came and we treated one child. We said, "Do you have any more children? Because we have to treat them all." And then they had scabies, so we had to treat them for scabies. And then we had to teach her how to prepare her house so that scabies wouldn't come back. But she was crying. She said, "It is so hard never to have enough money to get help. Thank you so much." Indonesian people and Balinese people in particular have been very thankful. They're always kind and thankful of our services.
You're still incredibly active despite spinal issues that you've told me about, and you've clearly never stopped giving. What drives you today, and what's the next step for Bali Sehat?
Bali Sehat. Well, Bali Sehat is hugely successful, but our first goal is to be sustainable. We, as I mentioned, we need to be able to support itself so we don't have to reach out to donors all the time. If I die and I disappear, it would be very hard to keep a foundation going without a leader. So that is our first goal. Our goal, hopefully, is 2026. Currently, our incoming revenue pays for 34%, 60% of our overheads. So we're not far off. It might be the end of 2026 or even 2027, but our goal is almost there. Bali Sehat continues to grow. We need so many things. We have a lab, but of course, we would like it to be bigger and better so we can serve more people. We don't have an X-ray. Well, that's a very expensive one, but because we have to build in a special room for an X-ray. But it'd be wonderful to have an in-house X-ray. So I can say is that we can get bigger and better, serve the community better. We are the closest thing in town to a small hospital, and we're there to serve the people.
Now, you don't seem to have a medical background. It's strange to me that you actually picked this line to to make a life in.
I don't think we picked it. I think it picked us.
Right.
But both my husband and I had very strong sales and marketing skills. And the biggest thing is raising the funds, because if you don't have any money, you can't do anything. And we tell the stories. And in Indonesia, you have to hire Indonesians. So the only thing we knew was a model of Western service, Western medical. And we've tried to deliver that as much as we can within the model that we offer.
Thanks for telling us your story. Now, what advice would you give to someone who's retired but still wants to make a difference in the world?
Well, the advice I would say, go for it. It is the best thing I've done, as I mentioned before. It's been fulfilling. It's taught me things about computers. It's kept my brain active. I've met so many wonderful people. It's fulfilled my social life. Uh, it is my life. And yes, in Indonesia, it is easier to help. It has less bureaucracy than other countries. So you can get out there with using Indonesian people and make their lives better. There are plenty of them out there that need help.
So clearly, there's still some scope for you to expand further, and you need some bits of equipment. Is there any way that people watching this can help?
Well, there's so many needs in a hospital, as you can appreciate. But we had a dental program that was funded by the Australian government under our DAP grant, which is amazingly successful. And we treated 750 children. And the children in the villages have tremendous decay. Unfortunately, they eat a lot of sugar. And most of the kids between 10 and 12, their adult molars are already down to their gum line. So we treated their teeth, we sealed their teeth, and we spent a whole year teaching them how to brush their teeth and take care of what to eat and what not to eat. There's still another 750 kids. We want to do all the kids in that one district, and it costs 29 Australian dollars a child. If you would love to help, we'd love you to be there.
One child at a time, eh?
One child at a time, 750 to go. The other thing we needed a big defibrillator. We're the only people. We're at least an hour from the closest hospital. Of course, Ahmed is a big diving region and snorkeling region. We have a small defib which we would put in our ambulance, but we need a larger one for the clinic. We need some lab equipment. We need some. We're doing a stunted program with some stunting children. They need food. They need milk. There's plenty of needs. Anytime that you would like to come and visit, and you're in Bali, we'd love to see you, and we'd love your help.
There you are. We've all got an invitation to go and have a look for ourselves. So Sue Bishop didn't just retire to Bali. She rewired her purpose from a dream, a $5,000 fundraiser, to over 80,000 lives touched through Bali Sehat. She is proof that her legacy is built out of one courageous act at a time. If her story moved you, imagine what you could do with your own dream. If you've felt inspired in any way by this, please leave a comment, share this video, and subscribe for free if you believe in the power of passion with purpose. And don't miss our next episode, where we meet Rhonda, a fierce-hearted woman on a mission to rescue Bali's forgotten dogs, especially the misunderstood bull terrier. It's raw, it's real, and is not to be missed. See you next time. Bye-bye.